It was a dismantling at the hands of the Green Bay Packers this weekend.
Yeah, this was an abject failure for the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to revel in what the Packers did all week long.
Yeah.
But like Cowboys fans, where are you at right now? There's a great story that Mike Vaccaro, the legendary New York Post columnist, tells often about. Marty Schottenheimer was his coach who could always win regular season games, and the playoffs would come just short. In Cleveland, he was the victim of John Elway twice and was eventually fired. Then he goes to Kansas City, and they're 13-3, and they lose to the Broncos. And Vaccaro writes in a column that, you know, the quote from Schottenheimer is, "We're knocking on the door. Eventually, we're going to knock down the damn door." And then he turns off the recorder, and everyone is told to turn off their recorders. And Schottenheimer, whose son, ironically, is the offensive coordinator of the Cowboys, now looks to the reporters and says, "What am I doing wrong, guys?" Like, and it's this like feeling of like humanity, and it's this feeling of just like there's a person there. So you got to consider that with Mike McCarthy here. He wants to win so badly. He wants to. And yet, big game after big game after big game with this Dallas Cowboys franchise, it hasn't happened. He also happens to play in the biggest media market as far as football goes in the world, and this is the #1 franchise as far as Forbes goes in the entire sports landscape in this country. And it's like this, you can't lose in the wild card round. You can't. And Jerry all season hasn't been committed to, hey, McCarthy's definitely our coach next year. Everyone who knows anything around Dallas is like, it depends how the playoffs go. Well, the playoffs were an abject failure. I have a heart for Mike McCarthy. I like him as a man. I think he's a good dude. I don't know if they can look to their fan base after this loss yesterday and say our best chance of winning next year is with Mike McCarthy on the sidelines.
And it was so tough to watch because as you're talking about Mike McCarthy, and that was awesome with the comparison that you just made, and the offense struggled, and Dak said it. He was like, if Mike McCarthy's job's on the line, so should mine, because he said he sucked. But I look on the other side of it, the Dallas Cowboys team was not only built on Dak Prescott and his unbelievable performance this year, but their defense. Like, we've been glowing about what Dan Quinn was able to do with them and turning around the way Micah Parsons gets after the quarterback. Didn't sack Jordan Love not one time. Like, didn't sack him at all. And he absolutely carved up this Cowboys defense. They couldn't stop a nosebleed. Gave up the most points for them in playoffs history as a Dallas Cowboys team. Watching that game is bad, and I know all the blame is going to go on McCarthy and Dak Prescott. The defense was equally as bad. When they scored points right before halftime, they got the ball. All right, they go down, they kick a field goal. You're like, all right, maybe the Cowboys have a chance. Nope. Packers get the ball back. They go straight down the field, and they score a touchdown again. This one was never an opportunity for the Cowboys to make any type of comeback. And I was more surprised about how poor the defense played because, yes, the Dak and all of that stuff, but Dan Quinn hanging his hat on them and them being able to at least get after Jordan Love and put pressure on him, especially as a young quarterback in his first playoff game. And it just never happened. They were never able to do anything. Dan Quinn called zone. Jordan Love had too much time. He found an open guy. When he went man-to-man, we're watching Romeo Doubs carve the corners up, getting back to the outside and making plays. There were absolutely no answers for LaFleur and his offense, and that, to me, was the more shocking thing.
Been asking the question all year, why is this Cowboys team any different? And they showed us that instead of losing the divisional round, they didn't get to the divisional round. That's different. This one hits different as well. We have, before the game, Jimmy Johnson saying he thinks it's the best Cowboys team since the 90s. He said that. You have Jerry Jones after the game saying it's his biggest disappointment since he got involved in sports. The reason this really hits different is the question of, if not now, when? Let's just look at the facts. The Cowboys say, we are home, we are healthy, and we didn't get beat, we got destroyed. We are loaded. Star quarterback, star wide receiver, star passer, veteran coach, great defense, great O-line, historic kicker. And we didn't lose, we got destroyed. We are playing a neophyte playoff quarterback, a team of children, and without one single Pro Bowler. And we didn't lose, we got destroyed. I try to do this thing where I'm like, I don't want to talk about the Cowboys. And it's not shtick. I don't want to talk about them to the playoffs because that's all I need to see. The Cowboys at this point have a quality of a new religion. And I'm talking about not a traditional one, a newfangled, modern, manufactured religion in which people buy in and they devote their time and their attention to this alleged light and truth. And in the middle of it is a charismatic Southern preacher man, and he always has big plans for promises and a glorious salvation. And there's these old stories of the past and these mythical figures, and there's symbols and there's stars, and there's this mega church edifice that they play in, and there's money being pumped into it, and money. But what's missing is something called validation of faith. Give us something. Show us why to believe. Validate our belief. Show us a miracle. Validate us. They're a false prophet. They're not real. How about them Cowboys? What about them? What? It comes back to the same question it has for a quarter century. WWJD, what will Jerry do, and do we even care? It's a fake manufactured religion that we blindly buy into and that never pays off at the end. And I wish more people would start opening their eyes and seeing the real light, because it doesn't exist.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Did you have that prepared to say if they even had made it to the divisional round and lost? Or that expectation, was it only Super Bowl or bust for you to be proven differently about the Cowboys?
I was very surprised they lost. Listen, I picked the Cowboys.
all took the
We all picked the
Cowboys.
Cowboys, and some of that was the Packers, but most of it was the Cowboys.
Yeah.
You know,
They're 16-0 at home the last 2 years.
Fantastic.
What are we talking about?
I know. They have 36 wins over the last 3 years. They're 1-3 in the playoffs. And this thing about Jerry says he was floored. Jerry, honestly, were you floored? Were you genuinely floored? There was nothing in you that thought, man, Mike McCarthy, I'm not sure he has this. The whole McCarthy thing, we're going to talk about this for weeks. When they hired him, his MO was, I have great teams that are really talented that don't pan out in the playoffs to live up to their potential. And now he's 1-3 in the playoffs. He didn't have any sort of misrepresentation. There was no hidden ball trick with Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy has been exactly who he's always been. He won a Super Bowl years ago with the best quarterback on the planet, had an amazing run, and then never got back to one since. And they hired him saying, Mike McCarthy's the guy to do what Jason Garrett couldn't. He never was. He's not. I don't know anyone making the case about, like, oh, man, Mike, just give Mike one more time. I don't know why they hired him to begin with. I never liked it. And all he's done since he showed up is validate all of that and be always who he has always been. I don't know what the case is to keep him, and I don't think they will.